Hi, I'm Rick Anthony, and welcome to the Someone You Should Know podcast, the podcast that focuses on musicians, authors, and interesting people. We like to say we're making a difference one artist at a time. So sit back, have a cold one, and get ready to meet someone you should know. On this episode of the Someone You Should Know podcast, we're diving into the world of rock and roll with a musician from Pennsylvania. From fronting bands to going solo, his music has racked up hundreds of thousands of streams. We're going to talk about his musical journey, his award-winning song, and the story behind his most powerful tracks. So buckle up. This one's going to rock. Please welcome my new friend, Jay Luke. How you doing, bud?
Hey, Rick. Thank you very much for having me.
Glad to have you on the show. A place I always love to start with musicians is, what was it that got you going down the path to a career in music?
Well, I guess my story's not that unfamiliar. I was a child that was raised at the same time there was a television network called MTV. and we were born together.
Absolutely.
And,
yeah. How old were you when MTV kicked off?
Well, I was born in 79, so
okay,
I
so
think
it was like 2 years old then, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I always tell everybody it was almost like, my parents could have packed up and left and went to Nebraska or something, and I was just I was hypnotized.
Just content watching the videos and such, yeah.
Yeah, so I was like absorbing everything like a sponge and learning all of these things. And,
me too.
Taking all this stuff in. So I always seem to blame the band Van Halen for for what I do because they were just so cool when I was a kid, and I was like,
and the videos were so fun. They were just so entertaining with Dive and Dave doing all the jumps and everything, and all the Ed's guitars, and yeah, awesome, very good.
Huge fan.
Very good, yeah. I'm a huge fan of Van Halen also. And it was really nice. The one thing I loved about MTV is I could watch a couple of hours of MTV, listen to the songs, get to know some songs that we're not playing. And then when we wind up playing songs that they played on MTV, I can just go ahead and relate what Martha said or what JJ said, exactly. or whatever, And I just absolutely loved it myself. And then it wound up going a totally different direction. But, we all know how that ended. But yeah, I totally agree with you. You're the same age as my daughter. She is in a band in St. Louis. She's lead guitarist and keys and backing vocals on a band from St. Louis called Scissor. So I can totally relate. My daughter's same age as you then. Okay, very good. Awesome.
Yeah, I guess the other thing too is, like I always say that part of it, but my parents, obviously, my mom was a huge Rolling Stones fan. And my dad was a big Led Zeppelin fan. So
awesome. Great.
In between those two things, I got Van Halen out of it. So
what's really funny?
That's really what started.
What's really nice is we see a lot of these reels and shorts on the videos and such, and the little kid in the car seat, please play some Metallica.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's so wonderful, wonderful, real good. Now, you've played with several bands like The Mess, Sorrowsome, and Reach for the Sky. How did your experiences working as a band influence you as a musician that led to your solo career?
The band thing, I'm actually still with Reach for the Sky, where it's funny. Every year I feel like, I'm working on a solo album and we're working on an album. So it's always like a race between the two of us. But the band thing, when I first started, my band was called The Mess. And I was so into like perfectionism, like thinking like, we have to have the best lineup and then we have to go in and record and whatever. So we ended up losing a member and it was heartbreak. It was like heartbreak after heartbreak, So I always say like we were like this really good looking sports car, but we always had a busted wheel kind of, that held us back from the finish line. Well, the main thing for me was that I was just waiting to record, and we were together for so long, and it felt like, wow, everybody else is doing albums. Why aren't we? So finally, it was just getting to a point where I was like, this is like the most heartbreaking thing I have to do, but I have to kind of put my band to bed here because it just wasn't going the way I wanted to. And it was almost in a weird way, like getting out of jail kind of,
Oh, seriously? Yeah. You paid your $50 and you got out of jail.
well, kind of like with the band thing, I feel like, you're kind of married to 3 or 4 other people.
Right. Exactly.
And everyone's grabbing the steering wheel and taking it usually in a different direction. So, it's always like a a fight to get a balance to say, like, where are we going here, So when I was, at the captain's wheel, I was able to really get a lot done. And in a short time, like my first album, although it took me at the time my entire life to get it out, recording it was relatively quick. And, it gave me encouragement to realize I could do it on my own,
Very good. And doing the solo career, you make the calls. You get to decide on what songs get to be on the album. You have the total control. What was the feedback from your other band members when you released this album?
I think a lot of people were pretty positive about it. I felt, I just felt like I had so much to give, and at the same time, I was like, well, I didn't want to be, how would I say it, like the band Guns N' Roses at that particular time. Axl Rose was on like a 17-year hiatus making one album or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it became like this hilarious joke, and I didn't want to end up to be that,
Right, yeah.
So another thing I did learn was like, you have your whole life to make your first album, but then shortly after that, you have to get right to work. Yeah, so there's no really resting on your laurels. You kind of have to get right to town, and writing and recording the next
right
thing,
and that's just it. You got to do something there, and it's like, okay, the sophomore album is always the hardest, and
it is the hardest. Yeah. I actually just saw a film in the theater, Led Zeppelin. Becoming Led Zeppelin. It was great. And Jimmy Page had said basically like they recorded the second album on the road, so they were an unstoppable force. I can't compare or whatever.
Yeah, it's hard to it's hard to figure out what album is the best when it comes to Led Zeppelin. 2 is as good as 1, and 4 is as good as whatever. The only weak one I thought was maybe 3, but a Presence maybe. I think everything else was just so solid. I loved everything Zeppelin did through the years. Let's talk about some brand new music. Actually, it came out a couple months ago. Tornado of Mistakes as we get ready for tornado season. That's the backstory on this one here. And is it going to be part of a new album or an EP or what?
Yes, this was the first single off of the upcoming album. I'm about halfway through recording the new album. And the story behind it is kind of like... I'm a pretty goal-oriented guy and pretty driven at, where I want to go. And the song is kind of about like, you have tunnel vision and you're blocking out so much to get to where you want to go. And along the way, you don't realize, in whether it be good or bad, realize kind of what's going on. I noticed, I felt like a lot of the people that were really close to me, mainly family and relationships and stuff like that. I felt like they were suffering because of how driven I'd become. Uh-huh. And I just kind of wanted to almost use it as an apology of some sort that, okay. Like I'm not sorry that I'm driven, but it's very important to keep balance in life, and you have to, be mindful of the people that are there for you.
Awesome. Very good.
Sometimes, you're
gonna have to keep us informed when the new album comes out, so we can make sure we.
For sure.
Let everyone know about.
I'm hoping this year.
Awesome.
I'm hoping this year.
If not, maybe next year we can go ahead and just have you back on the show. What do you think?
Absolutely.
All right, let's play that song right now. Here's "Tornado of Mistakes" from today's podcast guest, Jay Luke, right here on the Someone You Should Know podcast. Tornado of Mistakes. That's some new music from my guest, Jay Luke. We're going to hear some more music from Jay in just a bit. But first, hey, I want to say thanks so much for tuning into the Someone You Should Know podcast. And I hope you're enjoying the podcast. And thanks to our good friends at Buzzsprout. They're the service that shares us to all the different podcast platforms, whether you listen to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Amazon Music or Podchaser or Pocket Casts or Deezer. Hey, listen. You're going to wind up finding the Someone You Should Know podcast. And because of that, their stats told us that we are so very blessed to reach over 2,800 cities in 106 countries around the world. And I want to salute some of the more recent ones: Peabody, Massachusetts, Highland Hills, Texas, Augusta, Maine, and Merseyside in the UK. Someone You Should Know podcast heard wherever quality streaming audio is available. And this time we're speaking with rocker Jay Luke. You've had several albums since the 2017 release. It's About Time. How has your songwriting progressed since that first album?
Well, like we said earlier, like you have so much time to record the first one, and so many bits of my life were thrown into that first album that I think going forward from the first one, everything was up to a current state. So it wasn't like I was, talking about stuff that happened 30 years ago or whatever. It was all like my songwriting is very personal and autobiographical. I don't feel like we mentioned Van Halen. I'm like always envious of a songwriter who could write about these happy things and what seems to me like a fantasy world. So for me, it's always stuff I'm going through or things I'm part of or witnessing or being in a scene with. So I feel it's gotten more and more personal and more kind of like more storytelling.
Right.
But at the same time, I like to keep it as, general as I can so people relate to it. Like I'm not naming streets or places or people or anything like that, but, the general gist. So I think definitely more personal, like absolutely like the most recent album. I was recording the songs almost right after I wrote them. So there wasn't a lot of
wonderful. Okay.
hashing things out,
Very good. Now, are you a disciplined songwriter? Do you take a specific time to do it, or is it just on the spur of the moment type thing?
I'll tell you, I'd say probably 99% of the time when I'm writing, it's usually like driving home from a gig. Yeah. In my head, I get these ideas. I'm like, oh, geez, I better pull over and write this down. It sounds like a good idea. Or another bizarre time is when I'm mowing the lawn. I don't know why. That's this weird zen. That's this weird zen time for me.
The constant drone is, it's kind of zen-like. Yeah, exactly.
It's like a binaural beat or something like that, So, and I guess it tunes everything out. But,
I've had a lot of drummers say that just the waiting at a stop sign or a stoplight, the becomes a click track as far as the tick, 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 tick of your car. Becomes a click track, and next thing you know, you're going, oh, I like that. And then the next thing you're doing, making a phone call that, hey, listen, I think I've got the rhythm down for this next song we're going to release. I
was going to say another time is like, people ask me a lot, like, do you have your guitar first or your music? And I think it's kind of, I always equate it to like a jigsaw puzzle. It's like, I have all these riffs or I have, this music and just trying to piece it all together. Sometimes they happen simultaneously. It's like a weird lottery win, but beyond that, it's always just assembling it and whatnot,
Well, your music has definitely got a lot of wins. I want to talk about a song from Me and My Demons from 2024. It did so well on the streaming platforms, and you wound up winning the 2024 Museboat Musi Award for Best Song. The song is called All We've Got Is Now. It's a great song. Can you tell us the story and the meaning behind the song?
Yeah, well, the album itself, I call it a concept album, just meaning like every song kind of is a chapter of a story kind of. Right. So, at that particular time I was, and thankfully it's slowed down a little bit now, but, I work a full-time job, and usually right after the job, I'm either going to a gig, and, after the gig, sometimes it's an hour and a half to get home. Right. And it's like your whole day is gone. And between the hours of like whenever you get home, usually like 3 sometimes in the morning, and then you have, from 3 till 7 or 7:30 to try to rest, which is impossible, So I'm an insomniac to begin with.
Oh, geez.
I was going through like this constant state of, being under a deadline and just everything was so much pressure at the time. But the music was just going great. And that was like the only thing that seemed like it was going great, though,
Right.
and
Yeah.
all of that kind of found its way into my songs and my, the pressures and everything. So the end of that album is this song called All We've Got Is Now. And it was almost like me not being a fictitious character, but a real character, how you survive that. And at the end of it, it's like all you have is literally right now. You can't be stressing out about like all of this stuff. So it was almost like this note to myself. Like, every time I listen to it, I'm like, I do have to pay attention to these lyrics because this is the way I have to live my life.
Exactly.
Because
It's a great
if not,
song.
it'll kill you.
Great song, great meaning too. What was it like receiving the award?
Oh, honestly, I wasn't sure even with the path I took. You talked about how I've changed with songwriting. If I was becoming too personal, because I know a lot of, people are weird sometimes. You never know how you're going to either bring your fan base closer or alienate them. But I really think that I brought it all very close because a lot of people related to what I was going through. And to see something like that, like this song that was so personal to me, and hear people say like that it meant something to them, and oh my God, you may not make $1 million with your music these days, or all of that record deals and Ferraris and whatnot. But when somebody tells you that kind of thing, it's like that spiritual lottery win. So it meant so much to me, to win that.
Very good. I know the fans are going to love it too, so let's play that song right now. All We've Got Is Now. It is from the 2024 album called Me and My Demons. From today's podcast guest, J. Luke. Give it a listen.
Put off today what you can put off forever. Turn your back on the truth in your chase for pleasure. The mirror's reflection will show you the proof of your wasted time and your wasted youth. You follow others but ignore yourself, while the best things in life fall off the shelf. Nothing never goes away until we learn the lesson. It's the simple things. If you just pay attention, forget the years that have forgotten you. If you die without scars, there's no breakthrough. Don't let them dim your light, 'cause it blinds the rise. And don't let them steal the sunsets right out of your sky. Yesterday and tomorrow, all just words anyhow. Time doesn't exist, all we've got is now. Light a million candles from a single flame, try to share the joy and not the blame. Suffering is born when we ignore what's tough. Inventing tragedies only steals the love. Life's a lie, we tell ourselves to feel free. Ignorance is bliss, just how we want it to be. just pay attention. Forget the years that have forgotten you. If you die without scars, there's no breakthrough. Don't let them dim your light, 'cause it blinds the rise. And don't let them steal the sunsets right out of your sky. Yesterday and tomorrow, all just words anyhow. Time doesn't exist, all we've got is now.
That's some more great music from J. Luke. That was the winner of the 2024 Museboat Musi Award for Best Rock Song. The song, All We've Got Is Now. You have got a lot of momentum going. Speaking of now, you got a lot of momentum going right now. What's next for you this year, 2025? Any new tours coming up? Collaborations? You say you've got an album in the works. Let's talk a little bit more about some of the things you got going on right now.
Okay, I got an album in the works, 40 shows coming up. A music video, working on a music video.
Awesome.
And hopefully the release of the other band, Reach for the Sky, our fourth album. So, and a full-time job, so no sleep.
There you go. For me, it was Ambien and Red Bull. You know, get off at midnight. I get off the air at midnight. Takes about 45 minutes to get home, and Ambien to fall asleep, and a Red Bull to wake up.
Oh, that's hilarious. You had a diet of champions.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, you've got a lot of irons in the fire. Let's find out what's the best way to stay in tune to what's going on with you. How about your socials? What's the best way to reach you?
I think I'm most active on Facebook.
Okay.
But I do have a Instagram, Twitter, or X, or whatever it's called now.
Okay.
YouTube, Spotify, all that stuff.
I got a question I got to ask you. This is something I wasn't planning. You growing up in the MTV generation, and then you becoming a musician, and you could actually say you've made it. How do you view your videos? Did you really and truly take time to do it like a 1980s version of what you would have been like back then? Or what's your thoughts on the whole process?
Wow, that's a great question. Seeing so many videos, and I think you'd probably relate to this, even almost, well, maybe not at the time, because I thought all of them were cool at the time. Yeah. But wow, you really learn, like, oof, that's lame. Or, Billy Squier. You ever heard Billy Squier? His career got destroyed because of one video.
That pink one where he's dancing around, absolutely.
And the song's great.
It is, yeah.
But, I can't imagine why, or like, I always
Rock Me Tonight was the one, yeah.
Yes, how did the producer go, you know what, put the guitar down and start dancing around, that'd be great.
And wear a pink top, too, yeah, that'll do it, yeah. And start ripping it off, too, yeah, oh, jeez. Wow. And Bill's a great guy, too. I mean,
fantastic
we talked about that. He goes, how I ever did that, I have no idea. I have no idea why I agreed to do that. And he regrets it. But the thing is, he's had some more success after that. If Don't Say You Love Me back in '89 was a big hit. And he's just
great.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. There was a lot of stinkers when it came to the videos too. First time I saw Talking Heads, Once in a Lifetime with David Byrne doing the dancing and everything like this. I'm going, what the hell is this? And then I learned to love the song, so it's just like.
I think, with the whole video thing, you can't obviously take it so serious that it's like, you're making Apocalypse Now or something like that. But, you really didn't have too much say. I'm working on a pretty cool new one now. So
awesome, very good. I'd love to see it. Make sure we stay in touch after this is over with. Okay. The next feature is my personal favorite. It is something we've done since 1999 when we first debuted this show. Tales from the Road. It is those infamous road stories where things didn't go quite as planned. If you've ever seen the movie Spinal Tap, this would be like your Spinal Tap moment. In the years that you've loaded in and loaded out and done the gigs and going here and there and everywhere, what would you say might be Jay Luke's Tales from the Road?
Wow. Well, being a musician, I think we all have those moments. I could think of moments where they went incredibly well, more than expected, or, just weird or let down. Just to give a quick three if I can.
Go ahead, Blake. You've got the floor, sir. I'm let you have some fun. Go ahead.
All right. The first one was where it went well.
Okay.
I got to open up for Duff McKagan of Guns N' Roses.
Oh, wow. Okay, very good.
And he was a childhood hero of mine. But he was as close to Guns N' Roses were close to Van Halen as could have been for me. So getting to open up for him, I was apprehensive, thinking like, oh God, no, Me Your Heroes, he's going to be a jerk. He was in the biggest band in the world. How can he not be a jerk and all this and that? But he was so cool and so down to earth, and that experience in particular, kind of getting to talk to him and stuff, that taught me everything I felt like if I didn't know, I needed to know. Like, how could you be in a band so big and still remain humble? One of the reasons I started writing music was a band called Wasp.
Oh,
I love
gosh.
this one album.
Blackie Lawless.
I love this one album this one album by Wasp called The Crimson Idol. It changed my life. It was why I started writing music. And I also had a chance to open up for him. And it went really bad. Like, and not on our end. It was just that they loaded in, they did their sound check, and like the guy was like, when you see Blackie Lawless, don't look him in the eye and whatever. I'm like, what the hell? What are you talking about? Don't look him in the eye. And I didn't even get a chance because they left. They did their sound check, left, and they still to this day have given no reason why they just left the show. So here we are. It was a huge deal for me. And I'm like, wow, we're literally headlining this show now because he just backed off. I don't know why. So, yeah, the whole experience was very weird and a huge letdown. It was like, why would you, what a jerk thing to do. But I don't know, at that time, he was canceling a lot of shows without much reason. So it was like, one hero and one hero. And
yeah. There you go. All right, well, good. Well,
and he could have been having a bad month. Who knows?
It could be. A lot of health issues and such. You party hard and you don't know what's going to, your body's going to react to certain things. But Blind in Texas is one of my all-time favorites from Wasp.
Great song.
All right. Final song we're going to feature is the title cut from your 2021 album called Alone in a Crowd. Can you tell us a little bit about the story and the album?
Yes. Around that time was pandemic time.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Leading up to it. And I'm always doing a lot of shows, but I remember around that time, I was just feeling real alienated. Like the shows were almost starting to not be fun because I was just around people that I just had zero in common with. And it almost got to being like an actor, like, just pretending that it was fun and stuff. And I hated myself for it. I was like, oh, man, it's really wearing me down. And to even admit that to myself was really hard to do because I love, what I do so much. So I think Roger Waters of Pink Floyd had a similar moment where he decided to write The Wall. And it was like, I want to put the wall between me and the audience. And I don't know if it was quite as extreme for me, but I really did feel like I was alone in the crowd every time. And I said, I'm kind of write an album basically about that. And I kind of need a reset. And lo and behold, the world shut down with the pandemic. So
what a perfect time. So you're to blame, Jay. You're to blame.
My full year of shows was just wiped clean. So but it did give me, the mental time I needed for myself, I guess.
and being a graphic designer, I'm guessing you got a chance to do your stuff from home, right?
Yeah. The weirdest thing about that whole particular time was like, you had to stay on top of things and try to be relevant and, still perform, but you were performing like usually in your basement or whatever, on a Facebook Live sort of thing. Yeah. And the strangest thing to get used to is you played a song and you hear zero reaction, like that. That was the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to like look on a screen to see what people are saying and stuff. But I don't know. There's good and bad and everything. So like people that are never able to get to see my shows got to see me perform a little bit. It was
Awesome.
kind of cool.
Very good. It's strange. I was talking to a lot of comedians, and they've all said during that time frame they would set a specific time that they would do a live show in front of whoever wanted to join the live stream. And I think was it Tom Papa that said that there's nothing worse than hearing someone on the other end who didn't mute their microphone and said, "Oh God, I've had enough of this," and then close the thing. He says, you can, when you bomb in a club, you just don't go back to that club. When you bomb in your living room, it's a little harder to come back from that one.
That is accurate.
Yeah. Oh, it was John Mulaney. It was John Mulaney. It was.
Oh my God!
Very good.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So awesome. Hey, listen, man. I thank you so very much for. We're going to close the show with that song "Alone in the Crowd." Jay, it's been an absolute delight. You're a great guy. Your music's fabulous, and I wish nothing best for you for 25 and beyond, pal.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being here. Thank you.
Another night in a room full of strangers where you're invisible to surrounding dangers. Liars, cheaters, and life-sucking scum. They'll sink their teeth in you. They drain everyone. Everybody here's your friend if it suits their needs, but they'll stab you in the back just to watch you bleed. The loudest one in the room holds the biggest weakness, and a wolf in sheep's clothing will never practice what he preaches. Trampled conversations and fights in the bar, while my favorite song is butchered by a karaoke star. Alone in the crowd, I'm alone in the crowd. Drunken prophets on their barstool thrones. God, I wish they fucking leave me alone. Alone in the crowd. I'm alone in the crowd.
Hey, my party.
Yeah, hey, 4 doubles.
I don't like it.
Take this outside.
Answer all the questions, but question the answers. Just let them spin their lies and spread them like cancer. If you believe half of what you see and none of what you heard, you wouldn't hang yourself upon their every word. Deceit is an art form, as you soon discover. Trust in fake friends makes the real ones suffer. Our sins use us according to our weaknesses. Yet I listen to the whole damn world, airing all of the grievances. They run toward danger to escape from safety. They won't stop talking, someone please save me. Alone in the crowd, I'm alone in fucking fights in the bar. Well, my favorite song is butchered by a karaoke star. Alone in the crowd, I'm alone in the crowd. Drunken prophets on their barstool thrones. God, I wish they fucking leave me alone. Alone in the crowd, I'm alone in the crowd. They run to a danger to escape from safety. They won't stop talking, someone please save me. Alone in the crowd, I'm alone in the crowd. Crazy politicians with tricks up their sleeves. It's past last call and they won't fucking leave. Alone in the crowd, I'm alone in the crowd.
Hi, this is Rick Anthony, thanking you again for listening to this episode of Someone You Should Know. Now, if you're an aspiring musician or an established musician that's looking for a little exposure, I invite you to drop us a line at someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. That's someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. Also, I invite you to tell a friend about the Someone You Should Know podcast. I thank you for tuning in this time, and I invite you to check us out next time on the Someone You Should Know podcast, because you never know who's going to show up. Until next time, remember, God loves you, and so do I.